That's why you're late?
I ended up putting a barricade in front of the door and trapping her inside.
Hopefully you don't get busted for child abuse.
This won't do.
What?
I don't want this, Mom.
Could you make some for me? You can make beds and stuff.
I can only create things in the divine realm. Bringing anything from there is forbidden. And excessive assistance to human is against divine law.
So you're useless.
Wow! I healed Jamie's burns in case you forgot!
Medicinal herbs could have done the same. In other words, your value to society is no greater than that of a leaf.
Are you comparing me to stuff on a tree?
It happens. But yeah, I just went out to the park to go where I'm just trying to stay active and stay healthy.
Good. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, and I mean, I'm here for you. Whatever questions, comments, concerns you got, you got me.
Should I? I wanted to ask you how your day was first before we get started.
It's great, man. I had a big day yesterday, so I got home real late, slept in today, so today's just like my chill day.
Same thing here too, man. Just chilling out. Probably get on the Xbox Series X and play some Gears of War online matches later.
Heck yeah.
So I just have problems with the controls because I was like, this ain't like Gears 5. It's something different.
Gosh, Gears. I haven't played that in forever. I think I played the first Gears because I never had an Xbox. So my friend had it, and I played that forever ago because I'm a PlayStation guy. So like if I'm done here, I'll probably go play a little Destiny, a little D2.
There you go. And I've been playing the Gears of War series ever since they announced June they're going to release some new updates with Gears of War E-Day. So we're trying to play the whole series again as we speak.
Man, gotta love that freaking chainsaw gun, man.
Exactly. Well, if the small talk's over, I like to start with small talk first before we get into it. I guess we can get this thing underway.
Hey, of course.
So, greetings. It's nice to have you here. So, my name is Phil. I'm host of the Conversation Podcast, and I got a special guest with me here today. Introduce yourself. Who's Anthony Bowling I'm speaking to this Wednesday afternoon?
Who is Anthony Bowling? What a question that is. No, I'm Anthony Bowling. That's who I am. Thank you for having me. If I could tell everyone a little bit of what I've done, if you haven't heard of me, I have worked at back then it was Funimation and then turned into Crunchyroll, but I've been doing anime and voiceover for, oh my gosh, almost like 20 years now. I directed for a long time, the past 10 years. So I'm a voice actor and director. Some of the most notable things that I've done early on, Devil's a Part-Timer. I play Alciel in Devil's a Part-Timer. If you watch Spy Family, more recent, I'm Frankie Franklin on that. I directed One Piece for like 6 years, which was like end of Punk Hazard through almost the end of Wano. So that's a lot of episodes of One Piece, and I've gotten to act a bunch in that. I also directed the movie Film Red, the dub on all of that. So I've been in the industry for a bit, and I think most recently I just finished some more Golden Kamuy, the latest season. My guy came back. So I mean that's kind of, I mean, I hate to sound this way, but it's like, man, if you at home don't know who I am, Google me, and I'm probably in something that you've seen, you've done, because this has been just a really fun career for me. So I've been around for a while.
True. That's true, man. I've seen a lot of your work. It's amazing stuff. Because thing is, I know, listen, now that I'm paying more attention to you guys, I know some of you guys have more stuff than just doing voice acting. You guys do directing, writers. So pretty much they don't have to be just the voice actor. They got other things going on.
Diversify.
Because I was thinking, can the directors, can the voice actors be directors too? I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of the most common early on, because if you think about it, what are how does a director communicate with an actor if you don't have that common language? It's kind of like when you watch a sport and it's like, oh, their coach is an old player. It's kind of, the ins and outs of everything, and it helps you get a little bit more in depth a little bit quicker, because especially with anime, it records so quick. You hop in that booth, they're like, okay, you're this character, here's all your lines, we're going to read it cold, you're seeing it for the first time, act. And so you have to really, get in that moment. Think of some of your favorite animes where the character's screaming or crying or having these emotional moments. They're hitting that cold, on the day of. So that's kind of what really helps when you're an actor that becomes a director. Those moments, you can kind of cut to the chase a little bit quicker, help the actor build that. And I think it just really helps. But, there's so many different fields out there. A lot of the directors here I've worked with have done live action dubs, on camera, video games. I've also done a lot of video game stuff with Okratron, like the Dragon Ball Sparking video game, the last My Hero that came out, All's Justice. So it's kind of cool to like mix those two, and it really helps if you're a director and an actor, or even a writer. A lot of engineers too become directors, and it just helps to have those little pieces that you can communicate a little bit easier. So yeah, man, it's really fun, and especially like in One Piece, being the director, I could see like, oh, this arc is coming up, and I hadn't really been in the show as a big named character. And then when Wano came up and they had the Akazaya 9, which are like the land of Wano, the kind of like a Japanese Ronin that defend the land. There's a dude that looked like a Ninja Turtle, and I was like, I want to be him. He looks cool. He looks like a Ninja Turtle. So I sent my audition to them, because they're like, well, we want to hear the laugh, because One Piece is all about the crazy laughs. And, that was good to be able to know, like, oh, as a director, being an actor, showing them like, yeah, look, I can do this too. And they were like, oh, you got the laugh, like, yeah, you can play him. So that's really cool when you get to like not only bring the toys to the sandbox, but then jump in and play with them too, with everyone.
Well, like I tell people, gotta be a person of many talents, right?
Oh man, that's what the industry is, because I'm not always directing, and so what do you do to fill that gap? I don't want to get rusty, I don't want to do that. So, and I still love acting, so we try and find all those different avenues that we can hit. And a lot of it's for survivability. The more talents you have, the more hats you can wear. Makes it a lot easier to kind of get work and find different projects and things like that, and learn stuff. Like, I never knew I wanted to be a director until I started doing it, and now I love it. It's kind of my bread and butter right now. So very cool.
Well, I'm excited to see what more you do, man. So.
Thank you.
So let's start with a little bit of an icebreaker. Now, I've asked this question in my last episode. Is there one place you would like to travel to one of these days that you haven't thought of?
Ooh, that I haven't. Well, I mean, I love to travel. Didn't get to do a lot. My wife and I travel a lot. So we've been to Ireland, Greece, Japan, and I lived in El Paso, so I would go to like Mexico. So whenever I'm like, I've been to Mexico, but for me, it's like not really traveling, because it's a lot like home. But I think the place that we haven't been yet that I really want to go is Italy. I'd love to go to Italy, mainly because I'm a huge foodie. I love Italian food, and I think I would die if I went to Italy and was like, oh, every day I get to eat like the best pasta and the best Italian food ever.
There you go.
Like that excites me, like traveling for food reasons.
There you go. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm trying to go to Japan for my birthday. It's money stuff wise, it's expensive these days. So I'm trying to save money these days. But basically, lately I've been getting like a lot of equipment that I need. So I've been getting a lot of needs than wants these days. So it's kind of back and forth. So it'll work itself out.
I mean, you'll get there. I mean, it's actually, I hear it's pretty affordable, past couple years to go to Japan. So we'll see. Hopefully it stays up that way, because I know my wife and I definitely want to go back, because it's been like 8 years maybe since we went. Like it's been a while, 7-8 years. So I'm like, I got to go back. It wasn't enough.
Well, there's a lot that's changed lately since you left. So you might need to go back again, check it out.
Got to do it. I mean, and it's always, if you're an anime fan, Japan is like the mecca for everyone. You go there and, anything you can think of, any anime where you're like, they don't know about it. It's like, no, this is where it came from. So they have merch of it and all of that. You can walk around anywhere and see, I love that they have mascots at Subway, and there's a character that they have as the Subway mascot, where it's like, that's cool. You don't get a lot of that in America unless it's a corporate logo where people are just like, nah, there's whimsy in the world. Like, everyone loves cartoons.
Exactly. Well, let's hope we both get back there one of these days.
Heck yeah.
Well, now that the ice is broken, I got 20 questions. Thing is, back then I used to do 25 questions, but I'm going to chop it down back to 20 questions to keep it short. And I divide up into sections so we can keep track.
Okay, perfect.
So let's start with the first part, which is the origin story. Now, what originally pulled you into voice acting, and was there a defining moment when you realized this is what I want to do?
Oh, I've always been a fan of animation since I was little. I came from the generation of like latchkey kids and like raised on television. So when my dad he's a track coach, so when he would go and be home late, I'm watching TV. Saturday mornings I would wake up early and he would be sleeping, and I'd get my bowl of cereal and like watch cartoons for like the 3 or 4 hours when Saturday morning cartoons were a thing, before Cartoon Network and all that. And I started to notice similar voices in like Disney cartoons, where I'd watch like Darkwing Duck and then be like, hey, this guy sounds like the one from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. And you find out like, oh, that's Jim Cummings. He's Fat Cat in this, and then he's also Darkwing Duck and all these. And when I found out that, or like Looney Tunes, you find out that's one guy, Mel Blanc, and that sparked something in me where it was like, you can do that. You can just do a bunch of voices and be all these characters. Like, one person can be a world. And that just fascinated me. And I just started acting. I just wanted to act. And so I did a lot of theater. I went and got my bachelor's of fine arts in Arlington, near Dallas. And that's where I met, in school, I met Caitlin Glass, who, if you're an anime fan and if you know that, Caitlin Glass is a phenomenal,
she's going to be in my hometown this July.
So
I'm actually trying to see if I can catch her to talk to her too.
Oh, she's great. Very prolific in both directing and acting. She's phenomenal. But her and I were in school together, and we used to watch Dragon Ball. Like, I would record it on my VCR, if anyone wants to look that up. And we would watch the tapes of, like, it was the Buu saga. The Majin Buu saga was coming out, and we would watch that every Friday before we'd go to rehearsal. Like, because we're in college, so we had to, when you're in the theater program, you're encouraged to either audition for every play or work on every play or do something that's like what you want to do. So yeah, every Friday we'd watch it, we'd eat some Wendy's, and then go to rehearsal. And then when Caitlin got hired at Crunchyroll, she auditioned for Full Metal the first time it came out and got Winry in Full Metal. And then after that, she kind of invited me and said, hey, you want to come watch a session? And back then, they didn't have a lot of actors because anime was growing. So people didn't see it as an art form yet. It was like dub. It's a language option, right? And we as actors were like, well, we can turn that into, we can act, we can practice, we can make it real. We can make it what we always loved watching. And she brought me down and I got an audition. They're like, you're an actor, right? And they put me in the booth and we're like, you're good. Let's get you in the rotation. So they put my name basically in the file, and it kind of just took off from there, where I was going to college and then learning to do voice acting and all of that. I was also I do a lot of improv. So I was doing improv about the same time. So I've been doing improv for 20 years, and both of those things just kind of combined. And when I started voice acting, after a few years, you kind of hit a wall, and I wanted to challenge myself. And I was like, hey, I asked a friend, how do you get into directing or ADing or doing that? And that's kind of what kicked everything off, is they were like, hey, you got it, man. You know what you're doing. Why don't you try this? And, because I went to school and you have to do directing in school, I kind of knew it. So That's kind of the long, I don't know if it covered another question but my origin was I started getting into that, and then just kind of through pursuing my passions, it landed me here. So I never set out to be an anime specific director. I don't think I ever set out to be a voiceover director. I always wanted to act, but it's just a love and a passion that I found that's a part of, that whole journey too. So that's kind of the story of how I got into this and, kept up that momentum.
Yeah. And back then, this goes back to what you were saying about, it wasn't that huge at first, but throughout the years it started to grow. Yeah, there wasn't like a lot of technical advances. Sure, it was like the early 2000s. Social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people use like VHS and video cassettes players and everything. And I've been going to a lot of thrift shops. There's been a lot of expensive prices for old TVs. Because it's crazy. Because there's a thrift shop. It's called Mid-March. You go in the back, and they have like all these video cassettes of The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King. When I was a little, yeah, when I was a little kid, I watched The Lion King 15 times on my old TV.
Yeah, and now people like that. They look for those old CRT TVs for like gaming too, like gaming VCRs and all of that, VHS. So it's wild to see now because, now that anime's kind of exploded or even, specifically anime, you see a lot more celebrities and a lot more just it's branching out. You see it at sporting events now where back in the day, you ask a lot of the older voice actors who are like, we used to get made fun of by the sports people. Like we were the other group. And now they're like, oh man, it's all together. It's all...
And they just dropped the new Popeyes bento box for One Piece.
I mean, I gotta get that 2-piece One Piece. So it looks good.
If you got a Popeyes near you, go get that bento box.
I think that's what I gotta do, man. That little cake, everything looks great in it, and I'm a foodie. I told you, if they throw food at something, I'm gonna go try it.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that and I talked to Kira Buckland last year in the fall. I told her that Demon Slayer was trying to get put in the Oscars, but it couldn't make it. Yeah, and I was like, "What? You make it to the Oscars?"
Yeah, I'd heard about was it for an Emmy or something where they were talking about the Chainsaw Man movie too, that there's been a lot of like buzz and stuff. And I think just the fact that that's in the conversation now, I think that's huge. The fact that like K-pop Demon Hunters won an Oscar, and that's very adjacent to like what we do here. It isn't an original animated film, but I think showing the originality of it, the voice acting skills, people can kind of make that slide to be like, oh, when someone is acting over animation, it is acting. It's not just dubbing, end of story. And they're like everything, there are good and bad actors, so of course people will take the worst selections and be like, this is why anime sucks. And it's like, yeah, well, that was a bad representation. So I'm glad we're getting here, but it's now put a spotlight on it. So now we kind of have to straighten our ties, sit up straight and be like, no, we've always been here. Just let's show you what we can do. Because like you said, social media, everyone has an opinion. Everyone can judge you whether they're educated or not. And that's hard when you hear people say, you're not a good actor. This isn't good. You don't do this. It's not an art. It's like, well, how do you know, man? You live in the middle of the U.S., not near anything, and you're not practicing art. You're not an artist. You're not an actor, but you have an opinion to say, yeah, but what you do is horrible.
I just know the Oscars are going to have to put at least one anime talent in the Oscars at some point. They're going to have to. I mean,
Miyazaki was if back then, if Miyazaki was coming out now, if we didn't know, like, it would be hard to imagine a world where we're not influenced by like Miyazaki. But if he was happening now, that might be a catalyst to be like, this is art. Because you can't, if you tell people now, like, hey, go look at Grave of the Fireflies, go look at Totoro, go look at these things, and they're like, yeah, but those are good. Those are different than anime. It's like, no, it isn't. Man, it's all kind of the same. Granted, week to week anime isn't as beautiful. You don't have the time to have these pictures in every frame, or you have filler that you have, which can make anime seem bad, where it's like, yeah, because it was not from the manga, it's not original. But I think, yeah, with all of us coming together having this stuff, it's the Oscars are going to have to recognize that, much like Pixar. It's like we're doing stuff. People have to put an effort. There have to be writers, adapters, directors, actors, all of that stuff. It's not just, oh, here's the script, read it type of stuff. So that's just me and my passion for getting this art form into the light. I take it very personally when the industry is kind of attacked. Even if I don't know those people, there might be an actor that I'm like, oh, I lost a role to them. But if you talk bad about them, I'll be like, you stop that. You get away from it, because it's our community. And of course we're positively, trying to like beat each other for roles and be an actor. But I think this needs to be an industry now that it's so big that we need to look at each other and say, cool, how do we as a group of actors and dubbers and say, hey, this is what we do. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, man. That was you had one question.
No. Well, listen. I want you listen. I want all my guests, no matter what you are, to preach. Okay.
I mean, you'll get preaching from me. There's no this. It's a Wednesday, but it might as well be Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, no, let him cook. Let him cook.
Yeah, I just love what this industry is. I love the people that I work with, and I wish more could see that, because you get these really cool Pixar behind the scene, or like Netflix behind the scene, and they don't do that a lot in anime, where they have it one or two for the big stuff, but you don't get to see the day in, day out, or maybe some of these actors that aren't big names where it's like, wow, they're really good. Maybe I should check them out more. But it's like, yeah, it's a whole industry. And, I just want everyone to shine, because we're all trying.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember your very first role and how different it felt compared to now?
Oh my gosh. I remember my first thing I ever did in the booth, like day one, fresh snow, like first footprint. It was when I was telling you I went to watch Caitlin. They were doing an episode of Full Metal, and it was probably the first or second season. It was really early in it. And they had me be a guy by the road who was like, hey, where are you going? Okay, this is that. And I recorded that, and I remember that they were like, oh, you're really good. We're going to pay you and put you on the roster. But when I watched the episode, I didn't realize that it was kind of an audition and not really like, oh, well, we'll use it if we are. But they didn't use me for that role. But what it did do was get me into like the industry. So it's funny, my first role I ever did never happened. No one ever saw it. The first thing I ever did never happened for that bit. But then my next big role that like I could chew and really get into was it was a show called Samurai 7. Amazing show based off of Kurosawa's Seven Samurai movie. And it's kind of a retelling. It's got mechs. Like instead of the samurai being like old feudal Japan, it's kind of like a steampunk, like Chrono Trigger kind of world, where like some of the samurai are like actual mechs. They fight huge mechs. And then some of the samurai are normal people. But it is, I got to be the villain of that show. He was a young prince, and that was the first big role I ever got. And I'll say that from that to here, the thing that has changed is, of course, my experience in acting. I can watch that and be like, oh, I could have done better. But looking at it, I had a wonderful director. It was Christopher Bevins, who has done a lot as well. And he's now here in LA since then, since he worked at Funimation. But he did an amazing job of like bringing me in, showing me the ropes. And then after that, I think my next biggest thing was probably like Alciel from Devil, and then I had my first lead was Junichiro in Ultimate Otaku Teacher. If anyone knows that show out there, but Ultimate Otaku Teacher was my first lead, and then Samurai 7 was my first like big role that I was like pulled out of like Walla and bits and stuff like that. So those hold some very near dear places to my heart. But man, looking back on them, it's funny. It's like looking at a middle school yearbook and being like, oh, I wore my hair like that. Oh,
Yeah. And let me tell you why I asked that question, because you want to look back on your previous stuff that you've done, when you first start on new things, and be like, man, I might come up with a new idea for this thing later.
Oh man, that's the actor's gambit right there, is that we will always think we can do better. There's never been a time, I think, where I've ever seen an actor and they're like, I'm satisfied, unless it's like a big emotional thing and they're like, that was it. I'm spent. I'll always bring up One Piece because I directed on that for so long, but One Piece is full of big moments like that. And sometimes you have to re-record them. So like the amount of times I've had to go back and be like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, Stephanie, but like Robin has to do her I Want to Live speech a little bit because they reanimated it and it's now in the new format. So she's like, okay, and you're kind of getting a truncated version of all that emotion because you don't have that buildup. We're not doing the full scene. It's just like, hey, will you just say I want to live and make it real emotional? And so that's kind of in that same vein of like in that moment, be there, like and the difference between it.
Exactly. And speaking, and I can guarantee, listen, One Piece has so many episodes. I just can't get into it, man.
Hey.
Like, why so many episodes to watch, man? Like, I'm just saying, all those times you gotta record, it's like, listen, it's kind of hard to keep track of everything that you've done with work over the last few years. Like, sometimes it's hard to like, keep these in a file somewhere so I can make sure I can find them later.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I will get people that come up to me at a con and be like, oh my gosh, I loved you in this, and I'll have to get my phone out and be like, was I in that? Who did I play? Oh yeah, I remember this guy. And like I'll have to look at a picture and be like, I remember him. Like Witchblade. Witchblade is a huge show, or Tokyo Ghoul. There's like side characters that I've been in there, but those are really popular shows, and people will be like, oh, you're so and so in Tokyo Ghoul, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was, wasn't I? So yep. I mean that's kind of fun too, is I like, when we're playing these characters and then discovering. And I mean, like right here on my wall, I don't know, no one at home can see this, but like these are all like my One Piece. These are the Akazaya 9, that's my character there. And then this is like my Anthony Bowling shelf of characters with I forgot, like Slime, reincarnated by a slime. I have Guy Crimson right here. He's a cool guy, so I forgot. Slime is another great show. My Hero, I got Chronostasis, my guy. So it's cool to like, that's something else I like doing. Other than food, I like seeing if they make toys of the characters, because I don't have a pop. I've been in the industry 20 years and I have no characters with pops. Come on, man.
There's the game first right there.
I mean, but I'm not any of those characters, is what I mean. Like like characters I play, like Spy Family.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, has every character as a pop except poor little Frankie. Frankie's like Uncle Frankie, and they give 2 to the dog. They give 2 to the dog and 0 to Frankie.
That's gonna be a crime.
It's a crime. It is a crime, and I'm going to file it with the anime police.
Well, shoot, if you ever get one of those pops features, I might get one so I can support.
Dude, I will sign it and kiss it and send it to you. Send it like a small child. Put him safely in a box and send him to you.
So interesting stuff. Well, shoot, I hope they do that. And listen, speaking, and now that you mentioned Stephanie, she's actually going to be close to me in Florida this June. Oh. And I'm trying to decide if I want to go back to Bow, Missouri after last year. I was like, do I really want to go back to Florida? I was like, when they announced that whole guest list, I was like, I guess I should go back to Florida, huh?
Yeah, and that's like what you just said right there for everyone listening who's like, I love going to cons and all of that. You don't know how much it means to the actors that you guys do that. That's like when we go, that's why we go to cons. We go to cons to meet you. We work in an echo chamber. And so I don't know if when I'm acting, if it influences you, if it touches, on something that is really personal that you can connect with. That was another show I did, Cautious Hero. The hero is overly cautious. That one, I get a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, I love it. He's a typical like isekai hero, shows up, gets to be a badass. But, I've had people say, hey, watching that, I was going through a hard time and someone passed away and I watched that to feel better, or and it made me laugh, or I watched this show and it made me feel this. And that's why we do it. If we're not trying our best to have you lose yourself in that character, when you're watching a show, we don't want you to think of us. I don't want you to look at a character I'm playing, or if I'm directing, I don't want, once again, I'll use One Piece just as my lifeline, but be like, yeah, if you're hearing Nami give her speech on Luffy, please help again, and we have to re-record that, I'm not going to cheat the audience by making it less than what you expect. It's a powerful moment, and I love that the actors feel those moments. So that kind of drives me to be like, man, I want those moments. So this is a thank you for all of you guys that come to cons. And I would encourage you, man, if you see Stephanie, I always say, drop my name. If you go see Caitlin, you go see Stephanie Young, you say, hey, I talked with Anthony Bowling, because we're a community, and I haven't, we don't get to, if we're not working together, we don't get to see each other a lot. Cons are also a gathering for us as well. So
and the hardest part is, after cons, thing is also, I know we go to cons, but when's the last time we just hung out together, pretty much?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's almost like a family reunion where you're like, hey, why don't we all live in Dallas together? Why aren't we having dinner? Why aren't we having drinks? Why aren't we hanging out more? Why aren't we playing video games? Let's do Animal Crossing, So it's funny that cons, I think, also help us slow down. You're all isolated. You're almost on like a little island. You're all in a hotel, and that's where you make some of the best friends. It's like at school where you're like, oh, can I eat with you guys? Can I sit at your table for lunch? So yeah, man, I hope you do get out there, because it means a lot when people are like, I like anime, but the guest is going to be there, and they specifically come out, because I've done that. I'm a big geek for my voiceover fandom, where I'm like, I want to go see Tom Kenny and Jim Cummings and Billy West and all these different people that I grew up with. And if they're at a con and I'm like, I wasn't going to go to this fest, but I really want to meet Billy West, man. He's my guy, and that's cool.
I'm actually starting to enter the next phase of the journalism thing. I might sign up for media passes later.
Oh, so that's great, man. That's and I love it. I'm glad that there are people who also share that passion, that they want to be around this and kind of bring it out there. So it's great.
So we'll talk about that stuff later. but this, now we're at the intersection one, but we're gonna do a 2-part question, okay? I'm gonna go slow as I can, okay? Because this is connected to both number 4 and 5.
Okay.
Now, when you were starting out, what was the biggest challenge in breaking into the industry? And part 2 is, looking back at it, what's something you wish you understood earlier about voice acting?
Ooh, great questions. And they do kind of hit in there. I think starting out, I don't want to sound too like, well, it wasn't that hard for me, but the hardest thing.
Just be honest, man.
I'll be honest. Well, the thing is, I was already an actor, so it is a lot easier in anime specifically, or voiceover, if you have an acting background, or at least know those beats on what to do and how to dig in, because you have to learn timing, like for the flaps, and you have to cold read, like I was telling you. Like, they don't send you the script and they're like, here's your part, you can highlight your lines, look over it, memorize it. Nah, like me and you, if we were working, I'd be like, all right, I'm sending you the script right now. Your lines are all highlighted. all right, here's what's happening in the scene, and your first line is this, and we'll watch it, and like it's that quick, we would be recording it. So I think it took a while for me to learn that you don't have to get it perfect on the first try. You don't have to match the flaps. Like, you don't have to be the perfect person who's like, I hit every word in the mouth and I did it. It's like, that's not the game. Like, that's why we have engineers. That's why we have adapters. Like, we can change the lines, we can move them, we can squish them, stretch them, to learn that act first, and then look at the technical aspects as an actor. And I think that really helped me, because that is what transitions you into being a director. When you start looking at the other little technical things, I'm not just thinking about acting. I'm now looking at flap placement. I'm looking at context of the scene, even the character animation when they move. Sometimes they'll have a big line that's like, don't you dare, but they don't animate it big. So you got to adjust and be like, how do you make this work with the animation? How do you make him sound big and loud and angry, but make it match that? And I think that is what took me a little bit of that challenge, is to learn that it's okay to read the lines, trust in them. Don't look at the flaps yet. You don't have to memorize. And that's me specifically, because I know some people who are like, oh, I'll memorize it. But then, we could change the line and be like, that doesn't work. Okay, now you got to memorize a new line right now. So I think that was a huge kind of challenge. And then navigating, that. And then looking back, I think if I could tell myself anything, it would be those things about the challenges, and say, hey, act first. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'd tell myself, like, hey, you can ask a director, what do you mean? I don't get that. I'm not hitting that. Can you help me? Or ask an engineer, hey, it's coming in too long doing this. Oh, what helps you? How can I, as an actor, be a little bit better? I know I'm bringing my tools, but this should be a combined effort. It shouldn't be me just being like, tell me what to do. or the opposite, where some people think that a director doesn't really do anything, and that the actor hops in the booth and everything you see on screen is just the actor. They came up with all of that. They did that. So I think that would be kind of, if I could tell myself, it would be, ask questions, trust in who's working there, and like gain as much experience as you can through talking with them. And I think that's eventually what I did. But, if I could tell myself day one, it might have gotten me started a little bit quicker and given me a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. And, we're all going to make mistakes. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And, the more important thing is, how do we, how do we learn from our life? What can, like you said, ask questions like, hey, I made a mistake. Like, hey, what can we do about this to make sure it's better?
Yeah. I mean, and there's so much that you can get from Googling. A lot of people will ask, the common one is, how do you get started in voice acting? Okay, you can Google that and get a general answer. And I always tell people, like, have you tried doing that first? Have you tried? I know you're asking me, Anthony, but have you tried looking that up to see what the collective says? And then when you ask me, hear what I say and compare the two and say, oh, well, this might work for me. This doesn't work for me. And, I think that's a big thing too, is that there's not just one person that'll give you the secret. There's not just one thing you can do. Everyone has their own journey. And I'll tell people that I teach or talk to, like, hear what I say. You don't have to believe any of it. You don't have to subscribe to any of it. I'm just one option, and this is what I see. But, if I told you, like, hey, in my opinion, you should be a trained actor. You should go to school for acting before you even sit in that booth. Well, that's my opinion, because there are so many people who are naturally kind of good at this. But what I can alter is say, you know what, that's not what I mean. What I should say is, how are you going to get better if you don't keep training, if you don't try new things? And that might be also something that, if I was looking back, it would be looking at the language. How kind am I to myself? Did I tell myself you should be doing better? Or should I be like, hey, how can I improve? What would make me do better? What do I think are my weaknesses that I can improve upon? Two very different, trains of thought to say, do better, or, hey, when you're acting, can you think about the words that you're saying a little bit more in terms of the scene? Can you think about, are you sad right now? Are you like dig in rather than just being like, read the line, go a little bit slower. Cool, fits the mouth. We're done. Kind of the little details that make it work. So I think that is what a lot of experienced actors wish they could tell younger selves is like, you're good enough. What you're doing is like your brand. That's why you're there. You're there to put a little piece of you into that character. That's why you got hired, because everyone has a voice. Hopefully most of us do, if there's not something physically wrong. But what makes that different from a voice actor? Because some people can talk and say, oh, I can do an impression of Vegeta. Cool. So can Chris Sabat. And he's actually really good at it. Some might say he is Vegeta. And, it's like, well, if he's working, why would I hire you to be Vegeta? If that's, if you're thinking that's how I'm going to break in, it's like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
We have him. We
already got him.
Yeah, we got him. So I think, telling younger me to find my own path, and you don't have to like copy someone, and that you're treading new ground, which is hard in anime because you see the people that are like, man, look at like right now, like look at Alex Lee, look at Alejandro Saab, look at you were talking with Kira, Buckland, all these people that these names keep coming up. It's because they're good and they hustle and they work and they understand the industry. It's not that they made some sort of secret deal and they always, I work for this studio and they're obligated to give me this, like in Hollywood where it's like, I'm on a 12 picture deal. No, you have to work and sell the character and who you are. And I think that's why you see a lot of similar names coming up a lot, is because they get it. They know how to do it. They can step up to the plate and say, I know how to play baseball. Boom, home run. They don't have to think about it.
Yeah, and as I was saying like before, like and I told this to like some of you guys on like, it's okay if I say this, voice acting is not as easy as it seems. It may seem easy to us as the fans or other content creators or whatnot, but it's really not from their perspective. Like they put like a lot of hard work throughout the years to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
So sometimes you gotta know exactly what you're getting yourself into, because once you go into that door, that's it. They want to see exactly what you've done. Like I've been doing this for like almost a year now, and that's why I've been working so hard because I had things. Like I said, this took me time to get. Like, dude, do you know how close I am to 100 episodes right now? I'm that close. It took me time to understand this is going to take time. It does not happen overnight.
Absolutely.
And you just got to make sure, like, if people wants to know what you're all about, you got to have the resume and the work to back up your talk. Just talking and singing, like, listen, you can sing like a canary, but it's not going to help you as much.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to get a double sermon today. I didn't know. Look at this guy. I mean, brother, you are preaching right there, because that's how we feel. That's the attitude. It's passion. And what happens when, imagine, we're on two different journeys. The same person could look at both, you're starting out. If they looked at a performance you did and then looked at a performance I did, they could say, you both suck. And what that does is, for me, I'm like, heard it before. I still have a career. I'm confident and experienced enough to be like, you know what, I'm going to keep going. But someone just starting out, you hear that. It's the same person who might not have a dog in the race, has never acted, doesn't really know, but now maybe they discouraged you because it's your first year and someone said you suck, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, yeah, that's gonna happen, like, but you got to ignore those voices the same way that when you get a compliment, you can't just dine on that and hold it and be like, that one person said I was good. Use that as motivation, but don't use it as your foundation, if that makes sense, to say, well, I think back in the day, me playing, Alciel in Devil's a Part-Timer entitles me forever to be the highest caliber of actor. It's like, yeah, but what have you done lately? What are you working on? Are you improving yourself, or are you just there? Because you see a lot of people who try and do that, And sadly, it's at cons sometimes where you'll see like this person was in a show from 30 years ago, and maybe they played a background, whatever. But that means something to someone. Put yourself out there and don't be afraid of like, yeah, I know I haven't worked, but I love what I did, and I know that there are people who appreciate it, and that I think is a nice little thing that can help too with up and coming actors is enjoy and love what you did, but don't get mad if everyone doesn't. My first role that I was telling you, that Samurai 7, Ukyo, he is very near and dear to me. And I remember the first con where I had prints of him. People were like, "Who's that? From what show?" I haven't seen that. And I'm like, there's a whole world out there. Like, I thought I was going to show up with my print and everyone would know, but it's a real and humbling experience to be like, oh, I got to keep working, because it's not even about being famous. It's just understanding like, oh, it's a career. Like, you have to eat every day. You can't judge every meal and say, I'm not going to eat because all the food's bad. You have to eat every day. So much like in acting, it's like, well, I got to work. I love to act. So even if I'm playing a character that no one may see, or if I'm in a show that I'm like, man, 12 people are going to watch this, dude, no one's watching this, or like it drops during a really full season of something where they're like, oh my God, final season of my hero and final season of this and that. Like, yeah, they're going to be watching the final seasons rather than like, hey, there's a new show called I just turned into a can, but I'm in a dungeon and my girlfriend's a can opener. Like, no one's watching that, man. There's 12 people who maybe love the manga and they're excited, but you act your butt off. You act your ass off in that show because those 12 people are going to appreciate it. And I really love that aspect too. And I know I'm still going back to like answering question 4 and 5, but like when people start out, it is a big thing and it is going to be big for you and your friends, but don't let that dissuade you if other people aren't as excited, because there's so much to consume. It's like, it's not your fault, man. It's not your fault that people don't know who you are or don't want to buy your print. But the fact that you're at the table talking, answering questions. I've had a lot of people who never knew what I did. And because I just talked to them like this and like, oh man, this show is great. How old's your daughter? Oh, this show, it's really fun, really cute. That person over there's in a show that does this, and they see that passion and they're like, hey, will you tell me some shows you're in? Because I want to see like, and I'm like, oh yeah, and that's the connection, man. You're starting to like get that, and that's why I say, never disregard what you do or what show you're in or how big or small your part is. They all matter to someone, even if it matters to you. So I love.
Exactly. And adding on to this before we go to the next session, like I have like a lot of people in my DMs been texting me like every day saying like, you've inspired me to start my own show.
Oh, that's great, man. That's the best feeling right there. Cause now people see the passion that you have and that inspires them. So that's great, dude. I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay productive, just doing my thing, like not looking for recognition. I just love talking to people.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, next question. Next section. Section 2 is the craft, and I also put in let him shine as an artist. When you approach a new character, what's your process for finding their voice and personality? Because I know some of you guys don't do research and y'all don't have the time to do so. Y'all just kind of wing it when y'all get there. But what's your take on it?
I'll go with both sides, because sometimes if it is a big enough show, or like the licensor is like Chainsaw Man. They knew that they wanted to make this a big thing. So that was a bigger process of, we're going to get you the materials early. You can do, and this was directed and cast at the time when Chainsaw Man came out by Mark McFarlane. So Mike, they gave him those materials, and it wasn't a long time, but he at least had a couple weeks to process and know what he's looking for, because he has to send those out to Japan. They have to approve them. That's a whole process that sometimes then you'll know, and you'll be like, oh man, I know Chainsaw Man's coming out. The manga's been out. They announced the anime. So when they announce the anime, that's when all the actors start to buzz. Who do you want to play? And that's when people can research. Then they can say, oh, we know this. Look at the mains. If it is something that's like original, that doesn't have a manga, or a day and date where they're like, you have to do this, it's going to be due the day after it comes out in Japan. We're recording to animatics. We're recording to stuff that doesn't have flaps, and sometimes we'll have to do pickups right at the last minute. But in those cases, that's where you trust in the director, the animation, and that's where you can use the Japanese voice actor. I know some directors like, and some studios like for the English voices to sound similar to the J voices. And I know some that don't care as long as it fits the character. So I think for like Frankie in Spy Family, I was cast as Frankie because the director, Chris George, was like, dude, that's you. He's like, do your normal voice. Don't change it that much. I want you to just do this because this guy is you. And I was like, okay. And we got in the booth, and the J voice actor of Frankie has a little bit higher nasally. It's high nasally. So when I would talk, it would be a little bit more throaty. But the more I did it, the more excited. Yeah, he goes nasally, and it's like, come on, Lloyd, what are we? And so I found by looking at the character, knowing my voice, and hearing the J, I found a good blend. And then working with the director, it was like, there he is. We found it. Other characters, sometimes it's like video games. I was doing Borderlands. It was Borderlands 3. And I play a character named Grouse, who's a little robot. There are two robots named Sparrow and Grouse. And Sparrow is played by Sonny Strait, and he's real excitable and he's very like claptrap in that. And then mine was supposed to be the like Bert of Bert and Ernie. I'm the more serious. I'm like, ugh. And when we started out acting, they just told me that. They're like, he's a put out guy, angry. So I started having him like, what are you doing? He had a lot of gruff, and he sounded a little, for Seinfeld fans, it was a little George Costanza, where it's like, what are you doing? And this and that. And we did a few lines, and him and the producers would look at each other and talk and then go on the run. They're like, try this, try that. And it wasn't working. And they're like, and I said, what is the character like? And it was my friend Joel McDonald, who used to work at Funimation and Crunchyroll, another amazing voice actor and director. But he was like, dude, he goes, it's this, it's that. And I said, is it a little bit like Alan Rickman, Severus Snape type thing? Do you want, or like Brain from Pinky and the Brain? Does it have to be that like, what are you doing? And he goes, and he goes, try it. He goes, try that. And I read the line, and it was like, what are you doing? This is so boring, or something like that. And I looked at the camera like we are now to see the producers and the director, and they're all silently laughing because they're muted. And I see them doing that, and he comes on, he's like, I think that's it. Let's start there. And so because it was collaborative, we found that voice. And that for me is like the next step up from anime, because anime, you kind of get it quick. You have something to go off of. Video games or like pre-lay cartoons, there's nothing. You have a look of the character, the animation, and that's it. So I think it's just kind of working back and forth with the director, and kind of I pull from my own experiences. I'll sometimes be like, I really like this video game character, and I like the attitude of this. So what if I combine those into my own original? Because like that was my first Samurai 7 when I played the villain. He was a blue-haired noble, and I was playing Final Fantasy X at the time, or like right before that. And there is a blue-haired noble in Final Fantasy X who's he had a very light voice. The Lady Yuna, look at how beautiful she is. And I was like, well, my character has blue hair, and I was like, and he's younger, and he is a noble. So instead of doing that, I had him be up here. Oh, look at my lovely Carrara. Oh, look at her. And that was me doing my impression, or like pulling a little bit from it. And sometimes that's where voices come from. Sometimes it'll connect and I'm like, I know that. And then you just make it your own. So there's several ways that you can go about that. It's pulling from what you know, completely just kind of letting the spirit move you, or trusting in the tools that you have with you, the director, engineer, the J voices and all that. So it's kind of a mix of all of those things to find what works for the character. And then when you start reading those lines and when you get to play it back and be like, oh, let me see that. Oh my gosh, that's it. Because you're seeing the dubbing in real time. You can see like, that's the line we're going to use. It fits. It sounds great. Oh my God. Like there he is. We found him. And you know, you save that file and say, there's our reference. If you ever need to hear that. And then the next week when he's in for episode 2, he's like, can I hear my reference? Okay, yeah. I know where I was. And that kind of is, you're creating these little kernels of characters that when you water them, they quickly grow when you're in the booth.
Exactly. You don't want to lose all those, like, listen, I guarantee you guys have like miraculous moments going on in there. And it's like, shoot, we got to capture that so we don't lose it because we might need it for later. Like, listen, if you do something amazing, make sure you keep track of it. Keep it in your notes. Like, don't lose it.
So that's but that's one of the most fun parts. And sometimes going off the reservation, there was a show I directed called Combatants Must Be Dispatched, which was a wacky comedy. It was one of those that I'm like, I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to watch this, so I'm going to have the most fun I can with this show. And there was a character who was a little like scientist girl, and Emily Neves, who is another amazing performer, writer.
I met her 2 times last year.
Oh my gosh, I adore Emily. She sent me an audition for that character, and she was like, oh, I'm doing my voice. And then after she was done on the audition tape, she goes, Anthony, this is just for you. And because I had told her, oh, this character is like a scientist. She looks young, but she's an adult. She's just kind of like small. And I said, it's a lot like Dexter's Lab. If you know that old cartoon where it's like, oh,
I do.
And so Emily, for her second audition on that, she's like, here's my first thing. She goes, Anthony, this one's just for you. Oh, look at and she read all the lines as Dexter because I've heard her do that voice before. And when she did that, I go, oh, Emily, you screwed up, because that's the voice. That's the voice for this character. I said, make her less Dexter, but maybe give her like that, oh, yeah, European, like give her that attitude. And that got her that role because she did something that was fun and wasn't anticipating, like, you're not going to use this. And I think that's where a lot of the performances come from, is when you're having fun and thinking like, no one's going to do this. Like it's like little kids. When you watch little kids play, they are having the most fun and they are unaware that the adults are watching or that they're judging like their decisions when they're playing on the field, where they're like, I'm a superhero. Well, I'm a superhero with all the powers. Well, I'm a supervillain that can negate all the powers. Like they just say whatever and live it and love it and have fun. And I think as an actor, when you get those auditions that are like, hey, I'm comfortable, like here's this. I can't do a French accent, but I can do a really good this accent. So I'm going to audition with that instead. Like, sorry. And that sometimes works. Sometimes you say, oh my gosh, cancel what we thought. It's this. So I think that is some of the, also like that gives you some of the best, reads and performances and characters that really stick with you, that you remember.
Well, hey, don't lose them, okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was one thing that One Piece taught me. One Piece has these big, stupid, dumb characters with crazy voices. That is the most fun, when you get to figure out like the dumb laugh, the dumb voice. Like, how can we make this guy even wackier because he's supposed to be, and yeah, that for me is like crack. That when people love that and they start laughing and you find it, man, that's like, yes, gimme.
Sweet. Well, let's get to the next question. Now, right. This one's going to be important. Okay. Now, how do you balance staying true to your original performance while still making the character your own in the English dub? Let me say a few things first. And I had a few conversations with y'all before. Like, all of these characters that y'all have done, let me say this. When y'all get ready for a new show or something comes up, like y'all also gotta see like the character's backstory, understand like what sort of like trauma they went through as a kid, tragedy kind of stuff. And it's kind of like because one time some of you guys did put like y'all past experiences in life,
Mhm.
like a loved one passed away or a breakup or a marriage kind of thing,
Yeah.
and you had to put y'all experiences into these characters. And one example, Molly Flanagan, who's the voice of Naruto for years, like when Naruto met his mother for the first time, she had to drew her own past experience because her mother unfortunately passed away. Condolences to her. So if you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that I think is really special and important. And I think that's one of the big challenges of a director, too, is to create that safe space. Because I've had actors come in and either the subject matter that they're doing is very personal or very intense for them, or they've had an intense experience in their personal life and have to do the opposite acting where it's like, oh my God, I was just, I got in a car wreck, the other day and I'm shaking from it and I'm hurting. But today they have to act like the big spry and yell and do that. It's like, how do you mentally help an actor get there? Or if something is happening, that's not physical, that might be an extreme case, but yeah, maybe like your dog passed away that morning and you're really sad and you can't cancel that gig because it's like, hey, we have to record it, it's Friday, where it's going to editing Monday, we don't have time to record this. That sucks when you have to like get someone in there and get them in a headspace. But we kind of do what like you and I are doing right now. You talk, you try and direct them to a better headspace where they can channel that and direct it like a river rather than letting the river overflow and flood. You got to keep it flowing. And so, I mean, personally, I don't think I've had too many. I mean, I went through a divorce like how long was it? Like 12 years ago. And that was what kind of got me into directing, was that I was like, well, I'm an actor. I'm kind of at a low point in my life. I need something to pick me up and to motivate me and do that. And so through directing, I could at least channel a lot of that into lifting up other people and kind of using that to motivate in a way of like, there's bigger things out there. So these personal issues that happen, whether you're, engineering, directing, acting, it's kind of a group effort to bring that, because yeah, what it does is when you allow an actor to say, no, I'm going to use a personal experience, that is them pretty much saying like, hey, I'm going to get naked. I'm going to bare my soul. Can you cover me up? Because I need to bare my soul and I need to do this. Will you not make fun? Will you be there to support me? And that's kind of what it feels like when you're acting. You're vulnerable. And so as a director and engineer and you're in this room by yourself, you want to make sure that, if you have to do an intense scene where it's like, yeah, there's animes that are kind of based around murder or like sexual abuse or, things like that, where everything you see an actor has to act out, even if they're getting assaulted, even if they're doing that. And that's where you kind of have to like, hey, what do you need to make this better? How can I make you feel safe? How can we turn this into something so that when we're done, we can go, maybe that can help someone. Maybe they'll connect with that. And maybe that'll help someone tell their story. And I think when you talk through it, rather than just saying like, okay, great job. Do you need a second? Okay. Are you good? Let's keep going. Like, no, that's putting the job before the person. And we should never do that, in this industry. And I think that's where a lot of this comes up too. They if you want anime dubbed quickly, well, it's not going to sound great. And a lot of these actors might be tired and a lot of the directors might not know the material, but the quicker you want something, the more we have to sacrifice to get it done. That's why a lot of these shows where if it's like, oh, they just released this in Japan and then a month later, Netflix drops all 24 episodes. I think they did that with the first season of Beastars, maybe, or maybe
they did.
They batch it. So that right there, I mean, we could record one episode a week. That's 12 episodes. That's 12 weeks. That's 3 months of our life. and then Netflix drops it in one day. 12 months of our work in one day, and people are like, when's the next one coming out? Probably in another 3 months if we don't. But if you want it sooner, we could, I guess, do one a week, but it might not sound that good because it takes time for the adapters, like you were saying. What makes it different? If we just strictly did, this is what the Japanese is saying. A lot of American casual viewers, or a lot of people who aren't watching a lot of anime, if you're the type of person who's like, I watch Dragon Ball, I watch Naruto, I watch like more modern, it's like I watch My Hero, that's it. Like the big names, I watch Demon Slayer, that's it. Oh, okay, you don't mess with these smaller shows. That's gonna give you a perspective of, well, everything should be this big, everything should be like a shonen, right? Every performance needs to be this. I think it just helps rein a lot in, but you have to have those adapters write something where, are you going to connect with someone if you're telling them all these Japanese terms and be like, oh yeah, we're, that tsundere. Tsundere is a term that they use a lot in anime, where it's a character type of, like, the tsundere character is usually the female who's like, I hate you, but I really love you. It's that like Helga Pataki, Hey Arnold, like,
Yeah.
And those tropes are there as a stepping stone that we use. But if we keep saying the word in an anime, like, oh, you're a tsundere, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? I don't understand that. Then they have to look it up and they'd be like, oh, and once they have that understanding, well, what makes that easier is adaptation. If we say, like, oh my gosh, you're this, you're like, oh, you're I don't know if there's a quicker way to say tsundere, but it would be like, oh, you secretly love him, don't you? Like saying that, like, instead of saying like, oh, you're a tsundere, like saying like, oh, you secretly love him, don't you? That's getting the same type of vibe going, so that a casual viewer can understand the story, because you don't want someone to be watching a show and being like, I have to pause it every 5 minutes to look something up. I have to stop it and find out who this character is, or what are they talking about. Oh, apparently when you have when they need a watermelon and a stick, that's because they have a summer festival, and they use a watermelon to break. They use a stick to break the watermelon, and that's a thing that only Japan does, and we don't do in America. Like, it's a cultural thing, and sometimes you have to explain that, and people who really love anime will say, well, that's not original, that's not authentic to the manga, whereas other people are like, I love it because it spoke simply to me. I could understand the story and get lost in the story rather than being an Uber fan. It's like a Marvel movie. If you go watch it, do you watch a Marvel movie as a fan and you're like, oh my gosh, I recognize him, like all the Easter eggs, you're pointing at the screen being like, oh my gosh, that's a secret X-Men reference? Or the casual viewer who's like, oh man, they're fighting, oh, this is cool, oh, that's a cool power, who's that guy, oh, he gets big and small, okay, cool, I get it. Like, that's what they mean by adaptation. You're trying to make sure that these emotions and character traits, and that's why I think some people get mad when they're like, that's not what they said. And it's like, but there's no English way to say that. There's no word for that. We have that in Spanish a lot, where it's like, I can't translate that, man, it's just a Spanish word, it kind of means this and kind of means that. So I think that's where the it's so hard. Like you were saying, man, people have to read an anime or a manga, or they read the manga, they get notes from the client, and then they have to take a translation and say, how do I make this conversational, colloquial English while also hitting the flaps and making sure it looks like the character's saying that? So it is a huge challenge to give people, like, this is what it should look like, this is what you want, and for them to be like, but I don't like it. Like, oh man, we tried. There's so much we can do, unless you want us to start just saying what the J says and not worrying about if it hits the flaps. But as Americans, as Westerners, we're so used to watching cartoons that talk. We're not listening to dubs. If you watch a Japanese dub, they don't hit the flaps. They don't care if the mouth isn't moving, or if they just act through it, because a lot of times the animation might not be done either, but they're just acting, and then they put it in there, and then you watch it, and a lot of I've never heard a Japanese anime fan, like a sub fan complain about flaps. It's just not something that I think they look at. They're listening and then they're kind of reading or doing that, but that's why it's hard for us in English, because people are not only judging you on your performance, but I think subconsciously they're looking to see if those flaps match, because if they don't, they'll call that out. They won't say, oh, the flaps look really good. Instead, they'll say, oh, it doesn't look like they're talking. And that's another issue right there. So it's kind of like we're covering up issues that I think people don't even know that they're looking for. And that's really hard as an interpreter to like guess and anticipate what could go wrong and hopefully fix it before it does. If that makes sense. So
yeah, and lately, these last few years, I've been paying attention to a lot of shows, trying to broaden my horizons. Okay, I've been trying to watch different shows on Crunchyroll, Netflix. I just been sitting down and just looking for any context clues that I might be missing. Like I know back in high school, I was just mostly in it for the entertainment, just wanted to see you guys, but. Listen, this is coming from a 25-year-old. Like I'm getting wiser, more aware of my surroundings, understand like what the show's about, because there are some really life experiences in these shows, and that's the part that I kind of stumbled over back then, but now I'm really starting to pay attention. I apologize if I'm late to the party, so I'm still learning how this whole thing works.
No, man, that's exactly, I mean, what you're talking about is experience. That's growing up. I mean, like you were asking me how, looking back on a performance, I'm not going to look back on what I did and be like, I wish I never did that, because then I wouldn't be where I am here. And I think like getting that opportunity and having something physical. How many people, I mean, now we have phones in our pocket, but maybe 15 years ago, maybe 10, when the video quality wasn't great, people didn't have a way to see themselves. They didn't have a way to, if before you could video record stuff. Let's say you go to a play where they typically don't film a lot of Broadway shows. They don't film a lot of whatever. They don't let you film it. So how do you explain to someone, oh my gosh, I saw this really amazing play and I have to tell you about it? Or like, I'm in a show. You won't know how good I am unless you come see it. Like I can't record it and send it to you and be like, oh, here's a clip. Here's a clip of what I did. That doesn't exist. So I think having that instant feedback and being able to look and say, oh, that's healthy. I think now if you're looking at it in an improvement way, using that as a tool to look at and say, this is how I improve, rather than like a constant reminder of like, I keep this clip on my phone to see how bad I was and motivate. Like, no, dude, you don't need to save that. The internet will save that for you. Someone will bring that up to you, I guarantee. But why don't you have stuff for you? If we're gonna look back on stuff, we're able to improve upon it, man. You can look at your first episode of your podcast and be like, oh man, I was so green, man. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know what order. Now I found my rhythm. Now I know my questions. Now I know, like, you're good. You're smooth now, man. And I think that's what we are all trying to do, is smooth everything out to be like, hey, it's not about me. It's about this. It's about us. It's about everything.
Well, sometimes you gotta walk before you can run.
You said it, man. That's it. And I'll always preach that, patience and self-investment get you ahead, man. That there's so much negativity out there, and people are a lot quicker to be negative to you, or a lot louder. People who want to say nice things don't typically type that. It's a lot easier to complain online because that gets results. But if when people type out, like, if I tweeted right now and was like, hey, just want to say, like, all you voice actors are loved and respected, keep going, that'll get likes, that'll get whatever. But if I said, hey, so and so's performance sucks, that tweet will take off. That people will either come to defend me, come to attack me, maybe somewhere in between. But because it's so controversial to do that, people spread that. But if I say much love to everyone, they'll say like, oh, that's nice, and I might get half the hits, because there's nothing that anyone can complain about, and then they have to, like, the onus is on them to be like, oh, I guess I need to get better.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So this next one's going to be another two-part question. Okay. So now, first one is, you played both comedic, yes, you have, and serious roles.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a preference, or do they challenge you in different ways? And part two is, what's a role that pushed you outside your comfort zone the most?
Ooh. I mean, I've always been a comedic actor. That's why I did improv. Even though improv's not about comedy, it was like, but that's where you can get the most laughs. That we would do a comedy show. So I love being comedic because it also gives you a lot of, in my opinion, freedom. I love being a character actor. So if I can do a different voice, if I can do a creature, a character, an animal, I love doing that. But the serious roles, man, I've had to do a good blend. I'll bring up Frankie from Spy Family. He starts off at a very comedic character, and then in the later seasons, you find out that he was a soldier. He was in war. He has been. It was actually pretty poignant to what was going on, to what's going on in our time right now in America. But Frankie was basically telling Lloyd early on in his life when he was a soldier. He's like, I don't fight for this side because this side doesn't think about us. They think that we're garbage. They think we're disposable. They send us out in the field just to like do their dirty work. And then they don't look at who it affects at the end of the day. They just see the results. And Frankie was basically, instead of being this like, wacky, he was like angry and emotional because the world turned their back on him and his people. They are soldiers fighting for a leader who doesn't care about them. And that really resonated with the time. And it was like, oh man. And to your point from earlier stuff, that was pulling a little bit from how I think a lot of us feel, where it's like, you can feel powerless when a leader is making you do things that you don't believe in. And that's the way the world is going. And so kind of having those things, I think that the serious is not more challenging for me, but it requires a lot more thought. It's a lot easier for me to be funny and say, oh, this will be funny. This is a good comedic. I know comedy. I love comedy. I watch it. Being serious and really thinking about that, I take comedy very seriously. But then also, like, when you're serious, I think if you take it too seriously, you might get lost in the sauce. So I think it's trying to find that point and trying to find the balance of doing that. But I think serious, of course, is going to challenge me to do it. I like doing serious roles with other directors and having them like, how should I do this? Black Butler. I played an older, oh my gosh, what was his name? But he was a German, an older German man. And he had to do, he had to be the soldier. He had to do this. And I had never done a lot of German before. I had never done that accent, but working with the directors and all of that, they helped me feel comfortable so that I could perform well in that role. And it was more serious. But like when it was funny, yeah, I could be like, get out of here, you blasted drudge. I don't want to talk to you. Like, it's easier to be like funny and dismissive. But when he had to be like, war is terrible, and it's like, oh man, I got to really go somewhere. Like, I want this to sound like I'm not just, serious isn't just me being like, I'm talking and this is me serious. It's like, no, what do you believe in? What is the weight behind that? Serious weight too sometimes. So I think to answer your question now that I've gone this way, comedic comes a little bit easier to me. I love doing it, but serious challenges me, and that's why I love doing that. So I have no preference. I love seeing those. Difficult roles I've had to do. There have been some with like subject matter where it's like, hey, you have to be the guy who like beats the crap out of this kid and then they're going to come kill you. And the reason that you have to be that horrible is because we need to see that there is good in the world. You have to be the evil in the world so that we see the good in the world triumphing. And that can be difficult when it's like, I am saying some things that are terrible to say in real life, but they sell the character, man. I mean, if you look at older shows, the one that comes to mind, like Game of Thrones, the kid who played Joffrey, the horrible young prince, he couldn't work in Hollywood for a while. Or like Tom Felton, who was Malfoy. They play their roles so well that people think that's who they are. They're like, oh, you're a shitty person. And it's like, no, I'm a good actor. is what it is. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind of
true.
tough too. So you have to look at the, they're not all the fun villains where it's like, oh, I love this villain. He's so smooth and so cool and all that. There's sometimes the villains who are like, oh, they are made to hate. They are acted so well that you confuse it with the character and you're like, sometimes that happens at cons where someone will come up to you and be like, I hate this villain. I want to beat you up. Like, okay, I'm Anthony. Don't beat me up. I'm just playing a role. Like, I hate that guy too.
Right. And I understand that part, but I will say, but yes, and that's true. I agree with everything. And I will say this though, and sometimes the fans be taking it too seriously. Because let me give you one example, and this is not this ain't good. I had a conversation with a guy in GameStop. The people in GameStop know me very well. I go there, I'm their store regular. They got some good deals for me.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about, I don't know what was it that they were in. Do you know Laura Bailey by any chance?
Oh, yes, I know Laura Bailey. Worked with her, love her.
Yeah, there was that situation. I can't remember what it was. But
I know exactly what you're talking about. It was Last of Us. Last
of
of Us.
Us. And she kept getting and the fans were sending her death threats or something. And I was like,
that right there is kind of the dangerous side of being really good at your job, because her character kills, spoiler spoiler if you haven't played Last of Us 2, her character kills the lead from the first, kills Joel. And Joel was such a beloved character that, once again, acted so well by Nolan. Nolan North, right? No, was he Joel? No, it was Travis. Not Travis. Oh my God, Troy. Troy was it. Troy Baker. I'm getting all the names. Troy plays him, and phenomenal actors. Troy plays him so well, you fall in love with Joel. And then when Joel is killed, they took fictional emotion, turned it on a real person who, if you knew Laura is opposite of a character she plays. And they even threatened her kid at the time, which that to me is where I think that goes beyond. I think that's where you have to be careful and say, people in their right mind, or people who are, sometimes people on the spectrum don't have that, because I'm on the spectrum. I'm on the lower end, but when I get emotional, and I get passionate, I'll sometimes go away and be like, what did you say about, I was telling you, if they start insulting acting or whatever, sometimes that'll set me off, and I'll be like, hey, who are you? Who are you to tell me that? And maybe I'll lose my temper. But I never let it confuse the fact that I'm angry at the issue and not the person. It's not the person who's doing it. They're just a vessel for that. Unless you're Hitler, then I'm going to be mad at Hitler. But it's kind of that testament once again, and God bless her, but Laura got through it. And I think now that it's over, you can kind of see it's not an issue. No one is still threatening and saying, why haven't we stopped Laura Bailey from working? Why haven't we stopped so-and-so who's a villain? Why haven't we? Well, because it's not real. The show's done. The story's been told. And so now when season 2 of Last of Us came out on HBO, did anyone give death threats to the actor?
No.
The person who killed? Did anyone get on? Was there a big controversy around the live action show? Not that I heard of. I don't know. I don't know if that actor got death threats, but I don't think so, because I didn't see it kind of publicized. Bad news travels quick. And, as far as I know, if anyone would know, it's those people involved. And I don't know if Laura has gotten contacted by that actress who's like, how did you deal with this? Did this happen to you? And that's what kind of stinks, is that, she did so well at her job that it created this side persona, and then people couldn't separate the two.
Exactly. And Travis Willingham had to protect her, because they're both married. They've been married for a few years now. Because
for a while.
I be telling people it's just a game. Why are y'all crashing out over this?
Yeah. But that, once again, I will not knock anyone who, if that is your world, if when we were going through, well, let's remember, this was also during COVID, I think, close to that time too.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of people crazy. And I think having that that serious a subject matter. If you're living in a world that feels like you can't control it, the one thing you can control is your fandom, and you think you know it. Yeah, if they take that away, like, I don't know what I would have done if on some of my favorite shows, if they're like, yeah, I mean, that's what they did in like Game of Thrones when I still liked it. That's what they do in a lot of books I read, where it's like, don't make me love someone and then take them away from me. But that's, I think, what kind of got bigger during that time. And so I think it was also product of the time that people did that. Maybe if it was a different game with a different subject, that still happened. Like, if Firefly had come out then and they're like, they killed Wash. They did that. No. But yeah, man, I think all of this to say, I will not attack anyone for feeling that way, but I will warn them and say, hey, just make sure you check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they say.
Good saying.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, I have no problem with opinions. If you come up to me and if I played a villain and you're like, man, that dude sucked what he did, I will say, absolutely, man, but it was fun to make you feel that way. It was fun for me to play a character that elicits that response, because how did that make you feel about the good guys? How did that make you feel about the show? We're talking about it. You didn't ignore that episode. You didn't ignore that character. So the fact that we're talking about it is a positive thing. That's like, cool, we made an impact. Now, are we going to act on it, and are we going to take it too far? Or are we going to say it was a performance that's not real? Like, none of that stuff happened. It happened to fictional people in a fictional setting, but it was a real issue, and I'm not dismissing the issue, but no one got hurt. Nothing's happening here.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, just all these characters you guys are doing, y'all gotta, dive deep and bring that, y'all have to go both sides. It's like Two-Face. Like, you got to be the good side for a second in this show.
You gotta do the bad side.
Good to be the hero. If you gotta be the bad person, then be the villain. Listen, like for me, I'm one of the good ones. I don't care as long as the show is good and I have a good time with it. That's all that matters. Like, I'm not gonna go out and say, hey, this guy. I'll tell you something one time hilarious. When they had the Marvel Rivals, they just announced Erica Limba as Black Cat again this week.
Yes.
So I guess what I think I can't remember which one it was, but when I called out one of the voice actors saying, hey, make sure your character don't kill me too much in this game, okay? He actually guess what? He decided to message me. And he said, dude, I just wish the characters don't be mad.
Well, I think someone who handles that really well, that I love looking at, and I hate sounding like an old veteran of the industry, but looking at the newer generations, because a lot of what our industry turned into, because we didn't have that option, is like VTubing and Twitch, because that creates another avenue of voice acting and another persona. And I love, like, people. Alejandro Saab is a dear friend of mine. I've worked with him since the beginning. I love working with him, and I love watching that when people are like, you're in this again, you're doing that. He's like, yeah, what of it? Yeah, I'm working actor.
He's Deadpool. And I was like, why is he Deadpool? And I got to deal with him.
and that's what that attitude, he's not doing it to be mean, but sometimes it's that little dose of to him too. Someone came up to him and was like, this is one of his stories. Like, almost the exact same thing happened to him, where someone came up, and I forget what show it was, but they're like, you play this guy in this show. And he's like, yeah. And she goes, I hate him. And he goes, yeah, he's a bad dude. I hate you, and I want to beat you up for playing him or something. He goes, what? and then I forget what I don't want to steal his story because it's way better than I'm telling it. But
that's fine. That's fine.
But basically, he had to kind of like shock her back to snap her out of this moment where I think I forget what it was that he said, but and it wasn't this, but it was like, okay, well, wow. He did something crazy that kind of like made it awkward. And sometimes you need that to kind of like bring people back to reality and be like, hi, no, I'm a real person. Do you see all these pictures? These are all characters I've played. These are different. Like, this guy's really good. This guy's really bad. This guy's really, this. And I love the way that people of who are VTubers or who work on Twitch, they're really good at that real time, like talking with people in the chat, and people, because it's live, people will come on and be like, hey, this or that, or if you're with another VTuber who surprises you, like if you had a dropped a bomb question on me, and I'd be like, what? Like, why'd you ask that? How'd you know that? It brings people back to reality to be like, oh, this is what's happening here and now. So I love that there are now ways that people are like finding to deal with it, because I don't think you want to alienate, but you also don't want people to walk all over you and think, oh, this is how you treat everyone. This is how the industry is. It's like, no, man, we're all people, and we'll treat you the way you treat us.
It's treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah. So I really, it's, but once again, this is all back to like the testament of like performance and being like, man, I'm just glad we have this job. And yeah, you got to take the good with the bad. But I think that with us being people, a cartoon can't defend themselves. An anime can't defend itself. You know, it's written, it's done, it's said, people can only act it. But
Exactly.
you can talk to the actor, you can talk to the writer, you can talk to the director and find out that it is fiction, and it is a process, and it is art, and it is something that you create. You know, it's hard. It's one of the few industries where people think they can do better than you, even though they've never done it. No one goes up to a doctor and says like, oh, what, you're a heart surgeon? I'd like to try that sometime.
That's fun stuff, man. I like it. Oof. Well, we're getting close to the end, but so far, are you enjoying our conversation so far?
Oh, dude, thank you. I'll always, I go off on tangents. I like to talk about the industry, so forgive me if I've been talking too much, but I love doing this.
Again, I need y'all to preach. Don't hold back.
No, well, I appreciate that, man. I'm having a great time, dude. So
there you go. Well, let's get into iconic roles and fan favorites. Oh, now I got another 2-part question. Oh my god, I got so many 2 parts. Out of all your roles, which character do you feel the deepest personal connection to? And if you could revisit that role and re-record it with what you know now, would you?
Ooh, that's really good. The characters that I have brought the most of myself to that come to mind quickly, and I've mentioned them. Alciel from Devil's a Part-Timer, and that's because I think as an actor and you know, growing up watching Dragon Ball and all of that, you always want to play a badass. I wanted to play a fighter or something, and Alciel was a demon general. And when he came to Earth, none of that mattered. He didn't get big fights. He would show up to a fight late because he had to get his cape. And so it was funny because I felt like at the time it felt very like, all I want to do is be a badass. But my character is like kind of the funny housewife character where he's like, I'm going to do all the cooking and cleaning at home and you go out and get a job. And so it was very, I like Alciel because that's who I am. I love being a house husband. I love cooking. I love taking care of things. I am not an aggressive person, but I want to seem like, oh, I'm tough, I'm cool, right? And I felt that Alciel encompassed so much of that it was so easy to lose myself in that character because of the frustrations and everything. And then I had a great cast around me, a great director. I was constantly playing off of Jesse Greeley and Aaron Dismuke are my 2 devil companions in that, and and then the female leads with that are Felicia Angel, who is amazing. That was both of our like first kind of big named characters together in that show, so we got to travel a lot with that. And Alex Moore, who plays the neighbor with the big hammer, I forget what her name is, but getting to play off of all of those like that felt like a family. And then Frankie from Spy Family, just because Chris was like, it's you. So basically I'm playing a lot of like how I would play it and just bringing a little bit of me to that. And that's why I think also when you hear from a fan like, I love that character, you're saying I love you. I hate that character. They're saying they hate you, and you can, as an actor, you can't take it that way. It's nice, but once again, that's where I was telling you that double-edged sword of take your compliments with your criticisms.
Right.
You can hold on to both, but it depends on how you utilize them. Criticism can be used to grow, and you don't have to listen to it, and you can throw it away. Compliments are great. They feed the ego, but in the long run, you can't just rest on your laurels and say, well, someone said I was good once, so I should still be this good all the time. Like, no, keep getting better. Keep looking at what people liked about that and maybe make that into your brand. You know, like just celebrate like, oh man, early in my career, I was a bunch of best friends who were the nerdy, dorky characters. And for years, I was like, whenever there was a best friend with glasses, they'd be like, get Anthony. Get Anthony.
That's what I'll be saying. Like, you know, a little extra don't hurt nobody.
Yeah.
And listen, I took that reference from Batman Arkham Knight where they had to upgrade the Batmobile. Lucius Fox. I love Lucius Fox. He was saying, I'm sure your weapon's packed quite enough punch as it is, sir, but a little extra doesn't hurt.
Yeah. I mean, that is what it is. That's what a positive influence looks like is you're great. Let's make it better. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's all for the good, for the greater good, and man, that right there, man, you're hitting so many nails on the head with these things where it's like, man, that's the industry, and I love laying it out there so that people have a realistic expectation, because I hate it when people are like, I'm gonna get my first role in an anime, and I'm in Walla, and then that's it, then I've made it, and it's like, man, sometimes you won't hear back for a month. Sometimes you won't hear back for 2 months, for a whole season. And you're like, why am I not getting work? Hills and valleys, you know, it happens. And you have to, like you were saying, you have to have that endurance, and you have to not think that like, if it doesn't happen in year one, it's never going to happen. No, you need to get that momentum, man.
Mm-hmm.
Got to walk before you run. And if you're crawling, you're not going to get to run quicker. You got to crawl, walk, run, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Just keep pushing. Like it will come when the time is right. Like I know there's so many of you guys, and this is what I was telling to myself. You know, I was saying like, and I say this to some of the other people I interviewed. There's this woman. She's very sweet, and she told me don't say stuff. Sometimes listen, I'm Anthony. Sometimes I get pessimistic when I do these things, and I'm trying to not be negative. Sometimes like, I know like some people like like Alejandro Sab, Kira, but like Kira Buckley, etc. Like I'll get to those when the time comes, but I was like, I gotta prove myself first until like, cause like until I get to that certain specific level, I'm not even worth these people time right now. And that's when they told me, don't say that. You're working your way up to get to that point.
Well, I'll even tell you right now, man. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I'll tell you the same thing. You can't think like that because in the bigger world, not to bring anyone down, but like all these names that you've said, they're just people.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget. I remember the first show I directed. It was a show called Knights and Magic. And it was I wasn't a full-time director. I hadn't gotten hired yet. I was an AD and I recorded at night. I saw a character and I was like, man, I want Chris Sabat to play this guy. He's in like the last 4 or 5 episodes. I think he'd be really good at this, but he's not going to want to work on my show. And I asked my producer because I didn't know how to cast because, it's a new thing for me. And I said, so what do I do? And she was like, well, find the actors you want to work with. And if you don't know a lot of actors, here's a database you can kind of listen to the voice types that you need. And I was like, okay. So I asked her, I said, hey, do you think Chris Sabat would like be interested in this? And she goes, he's an actor who gets paid to act. I think if you offer him the role, like if he's not busy, he'll take it. And that's kind of the attitude. It's not so much that it's not worth it, but like now today, Sabat is doing so much just with Dragon Ball because there's so much of it. There's games still coming out. They won't stop making games. I think that it's safe to say, since they announced that the anime is coming back, I think it's safe to say that he's going to still be Vegeta. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't know how they're going to record it, but he knows that he has that definite work to that point. So the question doesn't become, am I worth his time? It's, does he have time to do new projects? Because if right now we're like, hey, you're still recording Zorro because there's still new One Piece. Hey, if Dragon Ball comes back, you're doing that. Not to mention if he's doing video games, he's running Okratron, he has his own studio. If I want him to do a 15-minute bit just because I want to work with him, and I'm like, hey, do you have 30 minutes to come drive down to the studio, do 5 lines, and then go home? He might be like, I don't. I need that that time it would take me to drive and do a couple of lines. Like, yeah, that would be fun. He doesn't need that money. A lot of people are like, yeah, they don't need that 30 minutes of work. But it became a question of, is it worth the time? Like, as people get bigger, like Matt Mercer still does a lot of anime, and God bless him. He is so in the best way. Critical Role has now become an industry, and that's what his time is for. So when he has to do anime and voiceover and all of that, it really becomes like I have to schedule you in. Oh man, Law came back in One Piece. Do we have time? So did Ace. Can we get Travis and Matt? They're really busy. And so when I asked, I got him. Sabat was like, yeah, dude. And he came in, and that started our director-actor relationship, so that when I started directing One Piece, he and I already knew how to work together. And then we got into that rhythm, and then I had to do an episode of crossover where it was Toriko, One Piece, and Dragon Ball. And that for me was a big moment, because then it wasn't just directing Sabat as Zoro. I directed Vegeta. I directed Krillin. I directed, and I got to work with Schemmel as Goku. So I got to direct Goku, the characters. That for me it's weird, because I'd worked with Sabat forever on Zorro. But when I had to do his Vegeta line, I was like, whew, okay, so you're going to say this as Vegeta. And it was like, I put him on a pedestal. But back to the point, it's like, man, Alejandro, if you asked him now, if he had the time, he doesn't think of himself as too important for someone. A lot of actors don't think of themselves as too important to talk to the fans who support us, So I encourage anyone who's trying to do a podcast, shoot your shot. The worst you can get is a no. That's how we actors live. Audition. The worst that can happen is they say you didn't get the part, and then you audition for the next part until you get a role. Right. So I think the worst you can get is a no. Second best you could get is a no, but I'm available here. The best thing you can get is absolutely, when. So out of those 3 options, man, a no is kind of a closed door, but for now. Yeah, man, I mean, I'd say you don't have to work up, man. See who you want to talk to, see if they're available, stack your deck, man, and get that word out, man.
Yeah, she told me, and guess what? She also told me, and she's been doing this for a while. She's actually also a businesswoman as well. She's very sweet. Yeah. She was telling me, like, if you have an opportunity to have these interactions with these guys at conventions, take the opportunity. Don't let it bypass you. So just keep doing the hard work.
Yeah, you got it.
Exactly. Here's the next one, and this one's going to be your favorite one because it's about One Piece. Now, when working on a major series like One Piece, do you feel pressure knowing how passionate anime fans are about this show?
That's a great question, because literally I had to ask myself that when it was offered. I remember when this will be a little bit of a story, but I'll try and make it brief. When they started recording One Piece, it was done by 4 kids, and this is where when we talk about adaptation versus the original. I think that's why a lot of people didn't like the 4 kids, is because they changed a lot of the adult themes to be more kid friendly, like Pokemon, where it was
I was going to say, I'm a little upset though. I'm sorry. I want to let you finish. But something pop up in my mind that really pissed me off here.
All
When
right.
they had Sonic X, and I watched the Japanese version a few months ago on Hulu, they had Live and Learn in episode 39 when they did the Showdown in Space episode. And I was like, why did they not put this song in Sonic X? Come on. It's Sonic X adapted the video games from Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 and Season 2. Why didn't y'all put Live and Learn? Copywriting. I hate copywriting.
And that's what kind of stinks. But I know that some people fight for that. Alejandro fought, or I don't know if he fought, but he had brought up when he was doing Pokemon, because he was the last gym leader to go up against Ash. And he said, hey, you guys are going to play the original theme, right? Like when Ash is doing it, like you have to. And they had to talk to other people. Like you have to run that up the ladder, because it seems like such an obvious thing to a fan and all of that. But that's why it's hard when a fan will attack and say, hey, Anthony, you didn't use this. Wasn't my choice, man. I wanted to. I'm a fan too. But the powers that be, mom and dad didn't open their wallet. Mom and dad didn't let me. So like One Piece, when I was offered that, going through that timeline, people had a bad opinion about that 4Kids adaptation, because it turned like guns into like wacky punch glove machines, and people, instead of saying kill, were like, I'm gonna hurt you and do this. And it was like, that's not the point of the show. Like, it's real, like there are stakes, it's dangerous. And so I think because in Japan it was amazing and people are like reading it, they love it. It didn't do well in the States because we weren't telling the story. And they couldn't understand. They're like, why is it doing so bad in America? And it's like, hey, because we adapted it for kids, but the anime isn't, or the manga isn't written for kids. It's written for varying ages. There are adult themes in here, so you can read it as a kid, but an adult, like you could be 30 and read, issue 1, chapter 1, and get a different experience and still enjoy it. So when that went away, One Piece went away for like 5 years. And I think they were trying to find another studio to dub it. They were trying to find it, and they're like, you know what? It's not going to work unless we use the same actors and do this. So they had to restart it. And so it came back on episode 649 because Funimation had dubbed some of it, but we weren't showing it because they canceled it pretty much. So what we had to do was they asked me, and they're like, hey, we're bringing One Piece back using the same cast. We're doing this. Mike McFarlane was the original director, the original person who cast it. He was picking it back up, but since there were 5 years worth of episodes, they needed 2 directors to like batch record it. We needed to catch up. So they told me, they're like, hey, Anthony, do you want to help Mike? You're going to be starting on episode 649 of One Piece. And I was like, cool. I auditioned for One Piece back when we got it. I auditioned for Usopp. I remember doing like early Fishman episodes. I remember doing Alabasta. I was Mr. Seven. So I'd been in the show before. And then they were bringing it back. And I'm like, oh, okay. So how long do I have to like watch the show? Because I don't know the stories of everyone. I was only in certain episodes. I didn't watch the show. I'm not a fan of the show. I like Dragon Ball. I'm working on other stuff. And they said, you have 2 weeks before this starts recording. And I said, okay, can I take the weekend to think about it? He goes, absolutely. Let me know Monday. And I had to go home and think about, do I want to be the guy who basically like screws up the Simpsons? Do I? And I thought about it, and I was like, crap, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I was thinking, One Piece is beloved, not only in Japan, but now it had the momentum. They got to see both the 4Kids and the original Funimation dub, the early. So they had some comparisons. People liked, some of both. But what became apparent is that people were starting to like One Piece again. So I sucked it up and I said, you know what? If I'm working with Mike, I'm sure he's not going to steer me wrong. Mike knows the show. I accepted. And in those 2 weeks, I watched episode of East Blue, which was the movie, which is basically like watching season 1 of the live action.
Yeah.
I had to learn about the core, but then it was like I had to skip. They don't have a like Water 7 where I could see about Robin and Frankie and the time skip and Brooke and all of that. I had to kind of piece that together and then trust the actors. But I accepted the role because I wanted to challenge myself. And I was like, you know what? I need to get so into this show that I am a fan and that I am doing what the fans are expecting in a positive way. Telling the story and saying, why do you like this character? Why do you like this moment? Why do you like that? And I think some of the biggest culmination of that to like really get into it is I did episode 1000, which was a big like celebratory episode. I did the first episode of Gear 5 in Wano, which like broke the internet because it was a big moment. It's like, it's a new power up.
Yeah.
I got to do like some big moments at what episode was it? 1015. That was an anime specific episode that was beautifully animated where it's Yamato reading through Odin's journal and she's putting together like, oh my God, this is Roger's dream and Luffy's dream. And they have all this beautiful artwork. I had to make some decisions on that and I had to change a few things and had to work with the actors and adapt it. And there are some things that are kind of like, oh, that I can see the crack. Oh, that I wish I could undo. But it serves the show so well that I had to become a fan. I had to really love One Piece because I wanted that for my audience. And so to kind of circle back, it scared the hell out of me. And instead of me saying, no, I don't want to do this, I said, yes. And I want to make sure that Mike and I are doing it a service. We want to make not only the licensors happy, but I want to hear from fans that it is the show that they watch, that they could watch it in Japanese and English and still enjoy both and still get the vibes. Because I watch it in Japanese. I have to. There is no English unless I make it, at that time. And I love both performances. And so when I have someone do an English performance, I'm comparing it to the J because that's what I know.
That's what I do too. That's what I do too.
Because I have to. That's how I learned it. So then I adapted in that real time and say, oh my gosh, like one of my favorite characters to work with and cast in Wano was Queen, played by Major Attaway, Broadway baby Major Attaway. Did the Zoom In song and all of that. Man, I am so proud of the work we did. They have a comparison online where it's like, here's the J version of the song. Here's the English version of the song. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but the English version we adapted to suit Major and his singing and his attitude. And I added some stuff that they didn't do in the J, which is just like some fills, some like song stuff. Not a lot. Had the audience singing along with them, but watching them side by side, I will defend and sit by what I did and say it enhances. Not like I'm trying to do better than the J, but I'm like, dude, I get this character. I get the scene. Like it's a party. These guys are all drunk and they're happy that this big fat dude is singing about how fat and sexy he is. I'm like, let's make it a party, man. Let's get that feeling even bigger for that moment. And it came out great. And so that sort of thing is, I think, when we're looking at everything all together, that's what that's what we want to give back, man. I want to give the audience the same feeling I got watching the J, because I don't get to watch One Piece in English. Not now I do, but when I was working on it, I didn't get to watch it in English because we're making it. So I had to make sure that those moments that people were seeing gave them the same feeling that I got watching it in the J, thinking about English, being like, oh my God, I can do this here. And oh, I love that moment. Okay, I need to make sure that the audience feels that moment. And if we're not feeling that moment when we're doing the playback, I didn't want to do it.
Interesting stuff, man. And it's kind of hard, you're working on something, but you can't. Sometimes you just gotta make those sacrifices. Be like, I can't watch the show because I'm directing the stuff.
Oh,
so
man.
it's. But sometimes, I know down the line you'll find ways to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I still listen. These next few years these next 6 years, there's going to be a lot of new stuff coming out. I guarantee it. So just something we all just gotta look out and know how we can adapt to certain situations like that.
Oh yeah, man. But I love now that I can watch One Piece. Before I left, Mike had passed the straw hat to me. I was lead director for a while, and then I got to, during Wano, work with Emily Fajardo, who is the director of One Piece now. And her and I got to work together, and I basically passed my knowledge of like, here's how I handled One Piece. I've been doing it for like 5 years at that point, and now she is solely doing it because we've caught up, and she's doing Elbaf and the new arcs and getting to cast her own characters, and they're new people for her to cast, not just like legacy. And I still love watching it. I'll watch it in the J and in the English and read the manga still, even though I'm not working on it. So I became a fan through working on the show because I needed to be, and I wanted to be. And it's such a good manga that I understand why it's gone on this long. Of course, you can look at it and cut out some stuff, but looking back on it, it's kind of like saying, well, I'm sure there's some parts of your life you'd like to forget or cut out of your life, but that's what makes you who you are. You know, I'm 43 years old. I wouldn't say, yeah, but only listen to like my life in my 30s and 40s. It's like, no, if you want to get to know me, let me tell you about who I am. This is how I grew up. This is, you need to know every part of me. And I think that's what One Piece is. You're watching the show grow up with the author, with the audience, with the times. The fact that in this day and age, people are using the straw hat skull and crossbones. They're using their flag as a symbol of freedom. I won't even say revolution. I will say freedom. They are using it as a symbol of freedom, of liberation. That touches my heart so much because that means we did something. That the show was always good, but if we can make the English dub, that is more people that have access to a wonderful story. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah, some people won't watch the sub. Some people don't like the J. Some people only watch the English. That's a different set. But if we can get 10 people watching the sub, 10 people watching the dub, that's 20 people who love One Piece. Not 10 and 10. We're uniting them. I don't think it should be a sub versus dub. Watch, you know, there's good and bad.
Exactly.
I know people who say, I don't like the J version of this voice. I like the English version of this voice. But I don't like the English version of this voice. I like the J better. And it's like, I get you, man, it happens. But they still like the character. So.
Exactly. Well, this next section is only going to be one big 2-part question again. I'm just throwing 2-part questions out there, man.
I love it, man, because I'll give you 4-part answers.
There you go. Now, this is going to be some time traveling stuff from back then compared to now. Now, how has the anime dubbing industry evolved since you first started? And with streaming making anime more global than ever, how do you think that's changed expectations for performances? But let me tell you something, because I told this to Jason Douglas 2 weeks ago when I talked to him. I told him as soon as Dragon Ball comes back on Crunchyroll this fall, because they're doing Dragon Ball Super Beerus, Crunchyroll is going to crash.
Oh, absolutely. I got to work with Jason Douglas a lot too. He's another guy that I've gotten to work with. And what was for you had a 2-part question. So it was, how was the industry?
How has the anime dubbing industry evolved since you first started? And then part 2 is, with streaming making anime more global than ever.
Yes.
How do you think that's changed expectations for performances? That's why I was saying, like, the reason why I'm saying this, because when they did when they did the whole Dragon Ball Goku versus Jiren, Crunchyroll crashed, and we couldn't watch anything. And it's probably going to end up being they did this. Sorry, I'm venting here. They did the same thing for Dragon Ball Daima. Crunchyroll crashed for that too. And I guarantee when they come back with more Dragon Ball stuff this fall with the Dragon Ball Super Beerus, it's going to crash again. But Jason said there's going to have I think they got some good mechanics in there to keep it from crashing and all that.
And so I think that's, gosh, how the industry evolved to kind of like show the different timelines. When I started, they were paper scripts on like a music stand, and they would record on, I think I was there when it was digital. Before me, it used to be on tape. And I'm sure you've heard, if you've heard any of those actors who are like Eric Vale or Sabat or any of them who worked on like early Dragon Ball, if you didn't get it done in a take, they had to rewind and you had to wait and start all the way over again.
Yeah.
And that trained that generation of voice actors to see in a different way. So like after that, when it became digital, all of those guys who had to do it in like several takes were now getting it in like one or two because they had to train themselves to be like, hey, I don't want to screw this up and have to rewind the whole tape. So it kind of evolved them to be like Vale. He can nail the performance while the J is playing, because we'll preview it and he'll like watch it. And like if we're doing Sanji, I'll say, okay, in this scene, Sanji's going to come in. He's going to be all pervy because Robin's there. And then he's going to get mad at this dude. And he's like, cool. And he'll read it along with the J. And he can hit the flaps and kind of just knows and adjust his performance. It is crazy to watch. And that, I will say, is like a skill he learned. My generation, once we got away from the paper, we started getting digital screens. We didn't have to like write our notes in the margin and like bring a pen and be like, what's the new line? Okay, thank you. Because you would see scripts all marked up from like the previous actors and stuff. Then once we got to a quicker digital age, that changed things. That was like the next evolution. That was Super Saiyan. Because digital, you could pull pieces out, you could manipulate them, you could adjust it. It saved us a lot of time. And then with a digital copy, you didn't have to bring a pen in. You could look straight at the screen and also look at the flaps. You didn't have to do this looking down, up. I mean, sometimes, but you're not looking at paper and all that. You're looking at screens. So it's a lot easier. And the director can scroll, make it bigger, change it in real time. So that evolved. The technology, of course, evolved. When COVID hit, we had to learn how to do a lot of remote. So a lot of people were getting a lot either better or worse at like, okay, so what mic should I have? What should I get a booth? Should I use my closet? There are some people who had a closet set up that sounded better than some of those studio bricks, just because it depends on how you set it up, what equipment you have. But that evolved. It got a lot quicker. We started being able to do like simulcast, because back in the day, if you recorded all anime was on DVD. You know, Funimation didn't have a website yet, or it did, and you only had a few things. So if I recorded a show, you had the whole script. You have 12 episodes. Let's say my character appears in the last 5. They'd call me in and be like, cool, we have the 12 scripts. We're going to get your character knocked out in 2 days. Oh, cool. And I would get to do it all in a row, do the character arc. And then you would wait 3 months until the DVD came out. And then you could tell someone about it. But unless they bought that DVD, no one knew what you did. There was no internet. You couldn't just post a clip. So that kind of has changed too. I can be in a show that premieres tomorrow and post about it the minute after it happens and talk to people about it. And I think that kind of, streaming is kind of part of that evolution. Streaming has changed it because now people can get it quicker. People want it now. How you're dropping One Piece on Xbox to buy, or like on your streaming service. You can buy it on Apple, and then 2 months later it comes out on Crunchyroll, and then a week later from Crunchyroll, Netflix gets it for One Piece. So I think that has changed too with streaming services. It gives you more accessibility, but then I think it also raises expectations of how quick it can be made. And, anyone who's in any sort of creative field knows that time restraints are the enemy of creativity. They can help you with inspiration, but if you're trying to be creative on a timeline and say, okay, in the next, it's like telling someone like, create the next viral sensation. Like you can't.
There you go.
It just happens. So I think that's how things have evolved. Like and I think that's why you hear a lot of early voice actors will say, "Oh, you should do theater. You should do this," because we had to. There was no blueprint. Now you can look back at 20 years of anime. Funimation doesn't exist anymore. That's how long ago it was. Now it's Crunchyroll. Now you're getting a lot of LA things. Some other studios don't exist anymore. I think, was it Sentai? Does Sentai still do stuff? But they changed. Or ADV. I'm sorry, ADV and all of that. Like studios have changed. And so I think with that evolution, it's the natural thing of, okay, well, now you have more options. And now it's an industry. So you're going to get a lot more good, but you're still going to get some bad. And then you're going to get in the middle. And you have so many options that it's a lot easier to compare. Back in the day when you had Toonami and you're watching Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, Big O, and maybe some Sailor Moon.
Yep, Sailor Moon.
You're comparing those 4 shows to each other because you don't know anime. That's the only anime that's on TV. So I'm like, okay, well, Sailor Moon was cool, but like I like Dragon Ball because that's guys fighting. And I like fighting. So I'll watch Yu Yu Hakusho because that's fighting too. But then like, you know, maybe Big O is like, well, that's kind of weird and cerebral and it's got big robots, but I don't like that. Or some people, like I started watching Sailor Moon to watch anime because that was the first show that came out on Toonami. So I was like, what is anime? And I watched the first like season and a half. I watched Sailor Moon, for those of you who know. I watched it till I think it's the next season where Tuxedo Mask becomes Moon Knight. And then I was like, oh, and then they started showing Dragon Ball, and I'm like, okay, bye, Sailor Moon. I think I know what anime is.
Yep.
But what it does is it's all part of my toolkit because I still like if today, like the remake of Sailor Moon, when it's like, oh, I got to work with Robbie Damon. It's like, dude, you were Tuxedo Mask. That's so cool, dude. Like it's all kind of just a big playground, and you're seeing it's like Halloween where like you see someone who's wearing a costume that you love, or like you're at a con and you're like, oh, you're dressed as that character, cool. That's how voice actors are, where it's like, oh, you play that guy, that's awesome. So you know, it's crazy just to kind of have that around you.
Wow, that is really amazing. And yeah, Toonami back in the day, that was my after school vibe. I will say that. But now it's like, now that we got animes growing, I'm getting exposed to more things. Yeah. Listen, I've been watching a lot of like very like, you know, slice of life stuff. And listen, don't judge me, okay?
No, I won't.
Back then when I watched Your Lie in April, I cried in the last episode. I was like, she got cancer and she died, and I was like. And I also got to remember, you know, not all stories have happy endings.
But once again, you're still thinking about that, man. It touched you. It did something. And that shows you not every story has a happy ending. Not every character is good or bad. Sometimes there's gray. You know, it's not black and white. And that I think has also hit the evolution. Now with more anime, people are starting to see, oh, it's not just punch fights. Oh, it's not just screaming. Oh, it's not just, you know, girls in skimpy outfits. That's a lot of it. It's a lot of that stuff. But I have worked on some beautiful slice of life shows that are just like normal. The show that I did when I moved to LA, it's on Hulu right in the States, a show called Wand Dance. And it was about high schoolers and this guy who plays basketball, but he's not passionate about it. He wants to dance. He sees a girl at school doing like hip hop rhythm dancing, and he's like, I wish I could express myself like that. And it's a really cute slice of life about a guy who breaks out of kind of this masculine norm of sports to do dance. And he's the only guy in the girls' class, but then he meets another guy who used to be in the class, and they're friends. It shows their journey, and it's just slice of life. Beautiful stuff. And it reminded me of when I was in high school, and I brought that to it to be like, we're not telling a funny story, a wacky story. I want people to look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh my gosh, I totally get that. Oh, so if I just be me, good things can happen. Oh, even though at times it seems bad, that to me is kind of like you're teaching through the shows, which is great. So I always dig when you can bring realism too, when you can I love how they put an anime now where they're like, hey, this anime character is telling me how to do laundry. Like, yeah, some people don't have those parent figures. Some people don't know how to do that. And this anime is lovingly teaching them like, hey, you put in detergent first and do this. And it's like, why are they doing that? And it's like, some people need to know that. And why not do it in a safe environment? It's like Sesame Street, man. And I love that anime can bring adult real life stuff and be like, oh, this is how you be a person. This is how you connect. This is how you treat emotion. Like, I think that's why a lot of our generation now is clinging to anime, because it shows you that there's bad stuff in the world, but you strive and you persevere and you overcome. That's, my, perseverance is my magic, is my quirk.
Exactly.
So I think that's part of the evolution too, is now we have access to it and it becomes more personal, which is why I think a lot more fans take it personally, because it is more substance, more substantial to that. So with that industry evolution, it has gotten easier for us actors in the sense of, and directors and engineers, like the production aspect has gotten so much better. But now the evolution of the industry is a lot of people think they can do it, maybe think it's easy. And now we're having to fight to justify our job position, whether it's, between AI or celebrity, because now, a lot of celebrities want to do anime. Not to harp on this, but like, I love the live action One Piece. Kind of stinks that a lot of the voice actors, or a lot of people who are voice actors in that, who are live action actors, didn't get contacted. Like, Jason Douglas plays one of the admirals, Aokiji. He's one of the big three admirals in that. I'm sure that if they did him in the live action, Jason wouldn't be the first person they contact, even though he might not look the part, but he could play it, because he has played it. Or if they bring a character that's like voiceover only, like any of the Fishmen. They didn't ask any of the, Fishmen actors, or like who played Arlong. They didn't ask Chris Rager to be like, will you dub over the voice, or will you play Arlong? Or even to a bigger point, Chopper. Chopper is a strictly voiced, an animated character. They did this in Lion King, where they're like, recast everyone except for James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then why are we doing this? What is the point if we're not going to do the best advantages we have? Like, why is Brina not an acceptable Chopper if you're going to play it different? Like, do you think Brina's not a versatile actress and can't play Chopper that way? Because I think Brina knows Chopper from day one. I think Brina's been doing this for 15 years. So it's kind of one of those questions that kind of comes up in streaming and the evolution of acting, where it's like, okay, when is enough for us? If I show you I'm an actor, does that not mean I'm good enough to maybe do something live action? You can put Channing Tatum in an anime, but you couldn't put one of those anime actors in a Channing Tatum movie, because he said, I'm doing this for my daughter. She loves the show. Well, I'm sure she might like to see, Ray Chase or someone from the cast of Demon Slayer in a John Cena movie and be like, hey, hon, I was acting with the voice actor of that, and that he was a bit actor in the scene or whatever. Like, they don't have that kind. That's the industry. And so I think that's what has made the evolution of this kind of hard, is you'll hear a lot of the same voices at the same time, because that's the business. And then you don't really think about it. You don't think about the bigger, or the other shows that maybe you never watch, that there's a whole world out there, So I think that's kind of how things have changed. They've gotten better, worse, but either way, there's more eyes on it. And that's how I think it's changed, is it just got more acceptable and more, like I said, you're seeing it at sports events. They're having a One Piece night. They're doing like One Piece night at this, a Demon Slayer night, a one My Hero night at the Rangers or whatever. So crazy.
I've been seeing a lot of athletes come on to like all these special events and like announcements. Like, and also I've seen some like Olympic people get on the Anime Effect, which is the Crunchyroll podcast as well. You know what that one is. Yeah. They sports are really like, listen, there's this one guy who was on the football field. He was an NFL, I forgot his name, but he likes Naruto. He likes playing the Naruto games because he was a fan of Naruto since he was a kid.
Oh, dude, Michael B. Jordan talking about when they ask him
too.
Dude, they're asking this dude, what media have you watched? Not, and it wasn't like they said, what movies, what TV shows have you watched that have made you feel emotional? And he's like, nothing but anime. He goes, actually, Bakugo. He's like, watching My Hero and watching Naruto. He goes, those performances. And he was speaking directly of Cliff Chapin, who's playing Bakugo. Like, he has been going around right now when people are like, anime dubbing sucks. I love that people will pull up that clip of him and be like, he almost passed out. He wrecked his voice. He was emotional. Like, he went for it as hard as any on-screen actor would. Probably harder because he can only do it with his voice. He doesn't get to act in real time. Like, you don't see him acting. And it's harder to do that with just your voice. And he knocked it out of the park, and people are like, yeah, Michael B. Jordan acknowledged it, and that dude just won an Oscar. Like, that's got to have some weight that people who are respected and are that we love and we can see, and they're recognized as being really good actors, are saying, hey, I just won an Oscar. You should check out this anime stuff because they're really cooking. Like, oh, maybe I should trust the Oscar winner on his opinion on some things, you know? So
Exactly.
I love that it's kind of gotten that big, and that's all of the generation growing up and following their own dreams and becoming big, and then bringing that, all of these kids who watched anime and now they're athletes, and now they're bringing anime to their athleticism. That's great.
I love that. I hope I keep seeing more of that as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. I will never get tired of watching Olympians do the like Luffy poses, or like Frankie Super when they're like the weightlifters are doing that. I'm like, hell yeah, man. Or when they do the Ginyu Force pose, when everyone gets in there and they're doing the pose, man, or the fusion dance. I love it, man. It's just a little wink. If you know, you know. And I'm like, hell yeah.
It's their childhood. They like that stuff.
I used to do that. I used to run track, and my friend Eddie and we used to do the fusion dance on the field to pretend like, okay, we gotta really run fast. And it's like, okay, we combine. Stupid. Like, it's just fun. It's great to see other people. Like, it makes you feel less alone. It's like, oh, I used to do that with my friends. They're doing it. Oh, okay. We all have a common thing we love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We got to keep what we love. That's how people can understand we love this stuff. Let's keep expanding it into more opportunities like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we are officially at the finale here. This one, please don't cry over this question, okay?
I'll cry now. Okay, go ahead.
When it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy in the anime and voice acting world to be?
Oh, honestly, I hope, because it is difficult, like in real time, once again, like when I was working on One Piece, it was not a big deal. It was kind of getting there. Now I feel very happy and proud that it's become what it is. And I know it's in no small part to the teams that have worked on it. And I will pat myself on the back a little bit for doing that. But I like hearing people say, that meant something. What you did meant something. And I think my legacy at the end, I just want people to watch that and say, you know what? God, I like him. He's really good. I like the stuff that he does. It makes me feel good. Or like, that was a really good episode. I want that positivity to shine through, not so much for the ego. I'll be dead. It doesn't matter if you guys give me 1 million statues after I'm dead. What I hope is that people say, I love how that made me feel, and it inspires me to make others feel that way. Just to keep that kind of pay it forward, that positivity going. That's what I hope people look back on, specifically like my career in anime, that it inspires them to either, I want to act because I saw that, or I want to be a better person because of that character, or I want to be a director type of thing. Like that's what I hope for.
Sweet. That's amazing. Well, I think that wraps up everything. Did you enjoy our discussion today?
I love it, man. I always love talking industry, talking anything. I love the questions, and I'm a big nerd too. So even if we didn't talk anime and got off topic and we're like talking video games or books or whatever, I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So it's great.
Sweet. That's sweet.